time for a look round, a look-see, a stock take, a story so far, and I think it's more than overdue. So jack it up, I'm going to reconnect the suspension and take the bodywork off. We're going to run it up because it has been run for about 3-4 months. Then we're going to throw it outside, take everything off it, wash it off, get all the crap off it, then put all the bodywork back on, put it up on the paddock stand and show you what it looks like so far after 385 hours of work. Let's get stuck in.
Hey Mr. Rockstar, come back to earth. It's not what your name is or how much you're worth. You lost yourself an ego, believing far too much. Your head is out the window while your brains are in your crutch. The sun's not so bright with your thousand other glasses.
radiating power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I do not see it. It is this unseen power which makes
There we go, hope you enjoyed that. I did. Enough self-congratulation. I think then we'll get back to business in a minute. I've got to do the air intakes under here. Now obviously things like the tank and this have got to be finished. The trim around here has got to be finished. The seats got to be finished. But this is major fabrication. This is the large hefty bits of fabrication of the bike. Once they're all done, then I can fine tune them and finish them off and blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. So the next big thing is going to be the two air intakes on here. This bike has an air-fed or pressure-fed airbox, which means that as you go up the road, the air coming in to the big massive inlets in the front of the fairing on your ZX7R, they come in through a venturi. That venturi shrinks. It narrows as it goes down, and it narrows right down to this. This is the hole here. So that hole is about 1/3 the size of the original front hole. Now if you know your physics, you know what that causes. It causes the air to speed up, like putting your thumb over a hose pipe. As you restrict a hole, it then speeds up the access. So basically it's shoving air into that airbox, and that's what produces 100 and whatever it is horsepower that these bikes have. And I want to retain that. So I'm going to put a little venturi on these. I'm going to make a little venturi to squeeze the air as it goes in. It's going to be a fun project. I'm going to be using 18 gauge steel, nice and pliable. I'm going to make some shrouds at the same time connected to that. So there'll be one piece items that you just bolt on with one bolt, and they'll cover up things like the ugly top of the radiator here. On the other side, it's even worse because you've got that thermostat housing and radiator cap. I want that covered. It looks ugly. Typical Street Fighter bodywork, that sort of thing, just to cover up the ugly bits and pieces to make it a nice looking bike. So that's what's to come. And finally, obviously the front mudguard, that's a long way away. I'm not even thinking about it yet. As far as today was concerned, I just wanted to fire it up, and I just want to very quickly cover that. A lot of you are confused, or you wonder whether it's this, whether do you fire up or not do you fire up. If you're going to lay a motorcycle up, this has been laid up now for 18 months. This rolled in January 16. It's now July 17, and that's a long time for a bike to sit still. If I'd never done a thing to this engine and just left it, then I'd have problems right now. What you have to do is a couple of things. Firstly, drain the carburetors. That's extremely important, and it's the paramount #1 thing. Draining the carburetors takes the petrol, the gasoline out of them completely, and it leaves them bone dry. They're perfectly okay bone dry, they won't rust. It's most important to get rid of that fuel, because the fuel itself, there are vents. There are air vents going into your carburetors, so therefore that fuel can evaporate, and it will evaporate, but it doesn't evaporate completely and just disappear. It leaves a residue. It leaves a sticky, waxy residue inside the carburetors, and that stuff then, when you put fresh fuel on top of it, breaks up. Particles of it go into the jets, block them up, and you've got to rebuild your carbs. It's just a horrible mess. I don't want to have to do that. I've got the time in the world for it. So those carbs, I keep them healthy by keeping them drained out. The simplest method to do it is to cut off the fuel supply to the carbs and just run it till it stops. It takes about 8 to 12 minutes on this bike, depending on how much you're revving it, and that's what I did today. As you saw, I started by firing it up, but it's got a fuel pump that runs when you're turning it over. Some fuel pumps are different. Yamaha fuel pumps, you turn the ignition on, you can hear them running, zzz, and then when they stop, you know that the engine's like a Harley as well. Turn on your ignition, like the same as a Triumph, you get a whirring noise inside the tank. That's the pump priming up. On these bikes, it doesn't work that way. This bike only works when you fire it or you spin it over. So you turn the ignition on, leave the choke off so it doesn't start. It's not going to even try to start. Then thumb that start button, as you heard. The first probably minute or so, I was pouring fuel into the funnel, topping it up. The bike is basically drinking it in, it's sucking it all in, it's filling up the carburetor float bowls. Once they're full up, I know because the level of that funnel stops dropping. Then I put the fuel down, pull the choke on, fire the starter, and as you saw, bang, it fired straight up. That's just the right way to prime the carbs. As soon as it fires up, I then run it, probably put about a pint of fuel through it. Once that's done, cut the fuel off, take the funnel away, and ran it until it absolutely dried out. Again, I completely dried it. The actual running time, it was running for about probably half an hour overall. I had the fan on, blowing the fumes out. This is a carbureted bike, it's quite dangerous fumes on this, not like today's fuel injection stuff with cat converters and whatnot. So I ran it for half an hour to get that temperature right up, to open the thermostat, to circulate the coolant all around the engine. As you saw from the temperature gauge, it was 73, 75 degrees on the engine case. That's on the outside of the crankcase. That then I know inside the engine, if you put your temperature gauge on the back of the radiator, is burning 115 degrees or so, which is because it's got Evans waterless coolant. That Evans stuff burns, or it runs hotter than water. The idea of that is it vaporizes any water. The water boils off at 105, 110 degrees, so you know you've got no moisture. And that comes from condensation. If you fire an engine up for the first probably minute or so, that engine is cool, it's cold, all the steel in it is cold, there's air inside your engine, you know, there's space, there's breathers and so on. As soon as you start the engine, as soon as you start the engine, the combustion process begins. That heat then causes condensation, so your engine fills up with droplets of moisture. You know that works. So you need to burn that off, and that's why you run it for about half an hour. So if you are going to start your bike between layup time, you know, every 3 months for me is fine. I like 3 months. For the English temperate climate, that's fine. If I lived in northern Scotland or Canada, I'd start it up every month. If you live somewhere really dry like Arizona, you might only have to do it every 6 to 8 months, it depends, but you have to do it at some point because the oil all eventually just drains down to the sump. You need to get that up around the engine to keep everything coated in oil, and you need to keep that moisture out. You still get day and night moisture as well, depending on the fluctuation of temperature in your area. But that's why I ran it up today, just to get everything freshened up inside the engine and make sure that when the day comes, this bike's finished and I roll it outside, it starts. Because that'd be really disappointing if I then had to spend a load of other time at the end of the project making the bike run again. So I'm just making sure that I don't have to do that. That's what that's about. But when you do fire up your engine, like I said, periodically, you must do it right. Run it for at least half an hour. If you can take it for a ride, take it for a ride. Take it for a 15-mile hard ride on a warm day. Warm everything up. That's good because it also helps the brakes work. It makes the chain, you know, it gets everything lubricated and working. That's a good thing to do. Incidentally, I did jet wash the chain. Yes, I did, but this chain's going in the bin. Never jet wash your motorcycle chain. Never, ever, ever. You'll wash all the lubricant out of it. You'll cause rust inside. You'll force water in between the rubbers, and you will kill that chain. So don't jet wash your chain. Don't follow that example. I only did it today because it doesn't matter. This chain's coming off. It's going to get cut with a saw, chucked in the bin. I'm going to put a brand new one on at the end of the project. So that's why I did that before I get flamed. There we are. That's enough waffle and self-congratulation. Chuffed with it so far. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy, ride safe, and we'll see you tomorrow for the prize draw.